the cameras flash, the crowd froze, and just like that, Hollywood had a new obsession.
Yeah, it really did. It's wild.
Welcome to Starscope Report. Join Jordan and Jamie as they uncover Hollywood drama, music industry shakeups, and viral influencer scandals. From red carpet surprises to social media controversies, we dive deep into the stories behind the fame.
And today's deep dive is a heavy one. We're unpacking the explosive, really complicated allegations made by Australian actress Ruby Rose against pop superstar Katy Perry.
Right. And we've gathered a massive stack of recent reporting, from sources like Rolling Stone, The Blast, One News, and a few others. We are going to look at the initial 2010 incident, the newly confirmed police investigation, the scorched earth legal denial from Perry's camp, and, well, the public's massive digital excavation of her past behavior.
Exactly. And before we really get into it, we need to state our goal up front. Because of the severe and highly sensitive nature of these claims, we are here to impartially report the facts exactly as they have been presented in our sources.
Yeah, we're definitely not taking sides here, or, acting as a jury.
Right. Our objective is just to give you, the listener, a comprehensive 360-degree view of how a modern celebrity scandal of this magnitude actually works.
Okay, let's unpack this. We have to rewind the tape all the way back to August 2010.
Oh, man, 2010.
Yeah, peak pop stardom. Katy Perry is touring Australia. She is riding the absolute global tidal wave of California girls.
It was literally everywhere.
It was. And during this trip, she crashes a high school formal at the Grand Hyatt in Melbourne, and eventually the night moves to a popular, very crowded VIP nightclub called the Spice Market.
Right. And she's there with Ruby Rose, who at the time was a local TV presenter and model in her early 20s.
Which, for over a decade, the public narrative of that night was basically just two celebrities partying hard.
But that foundational story completely fractured on April 13th of this year. Ruby Rose took to the social media platform Threads and posted a highly graphic, disturbing, and very specific allegation about what actually happened in that VIP section.
According to our sources, Rose alleged that she was resting her head on her best friend's lap, explicitly stating she was doing this to avoid Perry. Rose claims that Perry bent down, pulled Rose's underwear to the side, and rubbed her genitals on Rose's face.
It's just a staggering claim.
Yeah. And Rose alleges this continued until her eyes snapped open in shock, which prompted her to physically recoil and projectile vomit on the singer.
And when an allegation like this drops, 14 years after the fact, the immediate reflex from the public and, honestly, from defense attorneys is always the exact same question. Why the delay?
Exactly. Why is a 40-year-old woman suddenly bringing this up now, when she's had countless opportunities to speak out before?
Well, Rose actually addressed the delay directly in her posts. She pointed out that she was only in her early 20s at the time, facing off against an untouchable megastar. She just didn't know how to handle it.
Right, and she explicitly admitted that she had told the story publicly before, but she deliberately changed it, right?
Yeah, she reframed it as a funny little drunk story as a coping mechanism. And perhaps most controversially, she claimed she kept the darker truth a secret because later on, Perry agreed to help her secure a U.S. visa.
Wow. Okay, I have to play devil's advocate here for a second.
Go for it.
Rose openly admits she waited 14 years, and she openly mentions that Perry helped her get a U.S. visa during that time. A skeptical listener is going to look at that and say, that's not a trauma response. That's a calculated transactional relationship.
I know, it sounds bad on paper.
Right. So for the listener trying to make sense of this timeline, how do the extreme power dynamics between a global superstar and a local 20-something model complicate a person's ability to, process and report an event like this in the moment?
It's an incredibly messy overlap. But we have to pause on that reframing aspect because it's a vital psychological mechanism. Yeah. Reframing a traumatic boundary violation as an anecdote or a joke is a deeply documented trauma response. Yeah, particularly in asymmetrical power dynamics. It's called minimization. It allows the individual to acknowledge the event happened because pretending it didn't can make you feel crazy without having to confront the devastating emotional weight of being assaulted. The brain essentially files the memory in a less threatening folder just to keep functioning.
Okay, but what about the visa part?
Right, so the reality is that the human brain can hold both survival and opportunism at the exact same time. This is a concept psychologists sometimes call betrayal blindness.
Betrayal blindness. Interesting.
Yeah. In the entertainment industry, power dynamics aren't just about social hierarchy, they are economic. In 2010, Katy Perry was a one-woman corporation. For a local 20-something trying to break into the U.S. market, reporting an A-lister doesn't just invite public ridicule, it guarantees professional exile.
So you play along.
Basically, your brain calculates that silence or even accepting a visa from the person who harmed you is the safest, most logical path forward. You rely on the very system that hurt you because you feel you have literally no other choice.
That is wild. It's extreme self-preservation in a highly toxic ecosystem.
Exactly.
And if you're loving these Hollywood twists and psychological insights, make sure you're subscribed. We've got even crazier stories ahead.
Definitely. But clearly that calculation shifted for Rose because those social media posts were just the initial spark. We are no longer just looking at a social media feud.
Right. Rose took this offline and into the legal system. She stated she walked into a police station to see if her experiences could be investigated, even acknowledging that the statute of limitations might be a hurdle.
And she didn't just walk in, she followed through. She posted what she called her final update, stating she had finalized all her reports with the police.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and she noted that because the investigation was active, she could no longer comment, repost, or talk publicly about the case. She called this a standard request from the authorities and added it was a relief that allowed her to start healing.
And the authorities didn't stay quiet either. Victoria Police's Sexual Offenses and Child Abuse Investigation Team, which goes by the acronym SOCIATE, released a statement.
Though they declined to name Perry specifically, which, a standard procedure.
Yeah, but they confirmed to the media that they're investigating a historical sexual assault that occurred in Melbourne in 2010 at a licensed premises in the CBD.
Which, if you're listening to this and thinking, why on earth are specialized police spending resources on a 14-year-old club rumor?
It does seem like a long time ago.
It is, but you have to understand how a unit like Sociate operates. They don't just take a statement and close the file. The mechanics of a historical investigation involve looking for contemporaneous corroboration.
Like what?
They're looking for text messages sent the morning after. They're looking for emails, medical records, or like peripheral witnesses who might have been told the real story back in 2010. They are searching for the echo of the event.
Which brings us to the most prominent echo we have so far, the manager of the nightclub.
Right.
Rolling Stone Australia published an account from a former manager of the spice market who was working that exact night. He confirms the baseline facts. Rose and Perry arrived together.
But he described the night as a security nightmare with 600 people packed into the club. He noted Perry was constantly leaving the VIP area to dance in the mosh pit.
Yeah, and the manager's account is where the narrative hits a massive roadblock. He stated that the pair spent most of their time in a cordoned-off VIP section called the Genie Bottle. But his crucial quote is this: "I wasn't aware of any alleged assault or someone vomiting."
He also added that both women had way too much to drink, though they weren't paralytic, and that staff had to escort them out the back via a fire exit to a waiting car just to avoid the paparazzi.
Relying on a nightclub manager's memory from 14 years ago is like trying to reconstruct a puzzle in a dark, crowded room where half the pieces are missing. Every time you retrieve a memory, especially one formed under strobe lights, heavy drinking, and a 600-person crowd, your brain basically rewrites it.
That's a great point. He isn't remembering 2010 purely, he's remembering the last time he thought about 2010.
Exactly. Furthermore, just because he didn't see an assault in a dark VIP booth doesn't mean it didn't happen.
No, it doesn't. But what's fascinating here is that it also means there isn't a smoking gun independent witness confirming Rose's exact sequence of events either.
Right. It creates a massive vacuum of truth. The manager confirms the timeline, the extreme intoxication, and the location. But the core allegation remains uncorroborated by the person in charge of the room.
And in the entertainment industry, when there is a vacuum of truth, PR teams rush in to fill it.
And that's not even the wildest part. Stay tuned and hit that subscribe button so you don't miss what's coming next, because the way Katy Perry's camp handled this is intense.
It really is. With the police investigation officially underway, her representative issued a fierce, unwavering denial to outlets like Variety and TMZ.
Yeah, emphasize the specific language they used there. They called the allegations, quote, not only categorically false, they are dangerous, reckless lies.
We really need to analyze the specific legal mechanics of that phrasing. Categorically false is not a casual denial. It is a high-stakes legal tripwire.
How so?
When PR teams face a gray area, they usually use softer language like, recollections may vary, or This is a mischaracterization. Using categorically false leaves zero room for misinterpretation.
Ah, I see.
If Perry's team says it is categorically false, and then a photo or text emerges proving even part of the event, they have walked right into a defamation trap. It signals absolute confidence that no hard evidence exists.
But the statement didn't stop at the denial. The second half goes entirely on the offensive.
Yeah, it does.
They claim that Mrs. Rose has a well-documented history of making serious public allegations on social media against various individuals, claims that have repeatedly been denied by those named.
Which is them directly pointing a listener to Rose's 2020 exit from the CW show Batwoman, where she alleged a hostile work environment and leveled misconduct claims against producers.
Right.
This is a textbook execution of a crisis management strategy known as DARVO. It stands for Deny, Attack, and Reverse Victim and Offender.
Okay, break that down for us. How does DARVO actually work in a situation like this?
Yeah.
First, you deny the behavior, that's the categorically false part. Then, you attack the individual making the claim. By pointing to her history with Batwoman, they are painting Rose as a serial complainer who weaponizes social media.
Okay, and the reverse part.
Finally, you reverse the roles of victim and offender. By calling the claims dangerous, reckless lies, Perry's team is positioning Perry as the actual victim of a smear campaign and Rose as the aggressor.
Wow. That shifts the entire burden of credibility away from the incident itself and onto the accuser's character.
Strategy.
So while her lawyers are executing this aggressive, scorched earth DARVO strategy, Perry herself takes a completely different path.
Yeah, she did.
On her Instagram stories, she didn't post a legal document or an angry rant. She posted the lyrics to her 2013 song By the Grace of God, which is a deeply emotional track about survival, resilience, and the truth setting you free.
And over the image of the song, she simply wrote the text, I love you.
It is a brilliant, albeit polarizing, dual-track PR strategy.
It really is. The lawyers handle the aggressive defense to satisfy the press and establish a legal firewall. Meanwhile, the artist communicates directly with her core fan base using emotional shorthand. By posting a song about surviving hardship, she's subtly signaling to her fans that she is enduring a trial, projecting love rather than anger.
But does that actually work? When a celebrity's team issues a ruthless legal denial, but the celebrity themselves posts a highly emotional, cryptic song lyric, does that effectively shut down the rumor mill for the public? To me, it feels like it just invites the listener to read even more into the situation.
In a pre-social media era, it might have worked to pacify the fan clubs. Today, it absolutely invites more scrutiny.
Yeah.
The general public sees the massive friction between a vicious legal attack and a cryptic, teary-eyed Instagram post. It signals that there is a fire, and when the internet senses a fire and doesn't look away, it starts digging into the archives.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Rose's claims caused the public to revisit Perry's past interactions. And the most prominent clip to resurface was from a 2014 Conan O'Brien interview with actress Anna Kendrick.
The context of that interview is critical to understanding how culture has shifted. Kendrick is sitting on a late-night talk show, telling a story to an audience, and she casually claims that Perry, quote, finger-banged my cleavage at the Grammy Awards.
And the audience erupts in laughter. Kendrick is laughing. She frames it as a weird night, calls Perry aggressive, and then explicitly says, I like it.
Yeah, she does.
When Conan presses her, Kendrick even suggests her plunging dress was kind of asking for it and jokes that if nobody had done it, she would have been a little sad.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, what we are looking at with that clip is a phenomenon we can call the retroactive consent chasm.
The retroactive consent chasm.
Yeah. It is the specific gap between the social norms of the past and the legal or moral frameworks of the present. In 2014, the audience laughed because the boundary violation was the punchline.
Right. It was categorized by the host, the audience, and Kendrick herself as edgy, quirky pop star behavior.
But when you pull that exact same clip into 2026 and place it next to a formal police investigation for sexual assault, the context totally collapses.
It really does. And it wasn't just Anna Kendrick either. The digital excavation brought up a string of other allegations.
Like Benjamin Glaze, an American Idol contestant in 2018.
Right. He said he had never been kissed, and Perry kissed him on the lips without warning during his audition.
Then there's the 2010 incident alleged by model Josh Kloss, who claimed Perry pulled his sweatpants and underwear down to expose his genitals to a crowd at a roller rink.
And Jordan TV host Tina Kandelaki, who alleged inappropriate touching at a party. It is a rapid accumulation of stories that all share a similar theme. But to maintain absolute impartiality, we also have to look at the people defending her.
Right. Our sources highlight an April 2025 podcast comments from Perry's ex-husband, Russell Brand.
Yeah, despite noting they disagree completely on politics, Brand defended her character. He said she is an extraordinary, massive star, but wasn't involved in anything nefarious as far as he could tell.
Which perfectly illustrates the core tension of that retroactive consent chasm. He notes her status as an extraordinary, massive star. For decades, operating at that stratosphere of fame meant your behavior was constantly normalized or excused. The rules literally did not apply to you. Brand's defense is rooted in the reality of that era, that pushing boundaries wasn't nefarious, it was just part of the job description.
But the edgy defense doesn't hold up in the court of public opinion the way it used to. We are retroactively applying today's rigorous vocabulary of consent to the actions of the late 2000s and early 2010s.
Exactly.
And when you do that, behavior that was applauded on late-night TV suddenly looks like a systemic pattern of entitlement and violation.
That is the profound friction at the heart of this entire investigation. We are no longer just investigating a single night in a Melbourne nightclub. The public is actively investigating the entire cultural infrastructure that allowed celebrities to operate without boundaries, and they're demanding to know why we all clapped along.
So, what does this all mean? For the listener trying to process this avalanche of information, we're looking at a collision between an alleged historical trauma and a staunch denial.
Complicated by a foggy nightclub environment, an official police probe, and a public reevaluation of a pop star's entire history of boundary-pushing behavior.
This isn't just celebrity gossip. It's a real-time case study in how our society handles historical allegations against beloved public figures, especially when the definition of acceptable conduct has drastically evolved since the incident allegedly occurred.
It's a forced reckoning with our own cultural memory. The things we laughed at, the things we excused as rock star behavior, we are now being asked to look at the very real human cost of that entertainment.
Which leaves us with a final, lingering thought for you to mull over. Consider the legacy of the late 2000s and early 2010s pop culture era.
Yeah, that was a wild time.
It was a time when shock value and boundary pushing were the ultimate currency for artists. If violating boundaries was the required currency of the time to become a superstar, might that inevitably lead to an unprecedented wave of similar historical investigations?
It's a very real possibility.
As both the artist and the public are forced to reconcile their past actions with today's standards of accountability, how many more funny little drunk stories are about to become formal police reports?
I guess we'll have to wait and see.
You've been listening to Starscope Report, where Jordan and Jamie uncover the stories shaping Hollywood, music, and pop culture. Thanks for tuning in, and don't forget to subscribe for more stories that keep the stars shining.